Welcome back to the Fourth Wall. My name is Danny, and today, you know what? They told me that I was going to be reviewing Star Wars, and they led me into the theater, and it wasn't Star Wars. I saw things, strange things. Meow, 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 meow. We're going to talk about cats. Okay, so before we climb up this particular scratching post, if you could give us a like and subscribe with whatever button accompanies whatever screen you're seeing this on, we truly appreciate it. So, cats. I realize that this video is coming up after the movie has been out for a bit, and if you are aware of the film, I'm sure you've heard a plethora of opinions on it. So have I. That's why I felt the need to go and check this thing out for myself. My goal here is to do what I've failed to see many a critic do for this film, which is to give it a fair shake. I wanted to know if it really was the disaster piece or the hidden gem that people are saying that it is. The answer? Yes? Okay. Let's back up. Cats is a late entry in the 2019 film release cycle that has been directed by Tom Hooper. Hooper is a guy who in years past got himself a reputation for putting out projects that get some real attention from award circles. He made a big splash with The King's Speech, which brought home the big one, Best Picture, in the 2011 Academy Awards. He also helmed the musical Les Miserables, which took home an Academy Award for the great Anne Hathaway crying directly in my face for several minutes. Often, films released right at the end of the year are done so to be fresh in people's minds right as the award season rolls around. Enter Cats. A little history. Cats is based on a Broadway show that debuted in 1982, was a smash hit theater darling that enjoyed one of the longest and most profitable runs in Broadway's history. Music was written by none other than Andrew Lloyd Webber, and the book is based off of a book of poetry by T.S. Eliot entitled Old Possum's Book of Practical Cats. The source material is literally a book of poems in which each poem features a particular cat who introduces themselves and then expounds on their personal characteristics. Those poems were converted into song, and that's your musical. And that's your film. If you're not familiar with the show, then you may have heard what I just said and asked yourself, but Danny, what's the story? And that would be a very good question. Now here's where I'm going to go into, I suppose, what would be called spoilers for any other film, but this is Cats. So, spoilers? There's not a story! At least in the original Broadway show, there wasn't really a story. That is, except for each song telling its own little tiny story, kind of anthology style. The film, on the other hand, kind of crowbars one in. Here's the gist. Victoria is a cat that very abruptly becomes a stray cat, and then has many run-ins with many other cats. These cats have quirky, charming names like Rum Tum Tugger and Skimbleshanks, McCavity, Bustopher Jones, Grisabella, and many others. Each cat sings a songified version of the poem about themselves, and then we move on to the next. We learn that these are Jellicle cats, and they are all making their way to the Jellicle Ball under the Jellicle moon. Now you may ask yourself, what does the word Jellicle mean? So they're off to the Jellicle Ball, where the wisest of the cats, Old Deuteronomy, will choose a winner among them to receive the prize. What is the prize? Well, they say that the prize is a new life, but as far as I can tell, what the prize really is the sweet release of death as the winner cat gets sent off in a hot air balloon to some kind of great beyond. And that's it. Where the film really takes a step away from the Broadway show is turning the cat McCavity into a bit of a villain who does magic, because magic is real in cats. He goes around removing his fellow cats from the equation so that he would be the only cat left to receive the prize. The story itself only kind of pops in for brief moments here and there in between our characters singing about themselves. Full disclosure, before I was this charming hunk of maturity that you see before you, I was but a wee theater kid, and one weekend of my youth I was sick at home. My mother, very sweet, and knowing that I enjoyed musicals, went out and rented the VHS tape copy recording of the Broadway show, Cats, for me to see. Popped that sucker in and began to watch it. The cats crawled out onto the stage. Weird synth music started playing, and I just couldn't do it. My little preteen mind couldn't wrap around the look and the tone and the lack of story. I heard that a film was in the works a little while ago, and I had no idea how they were going to turn that show into a movie. And then came the trailer. The trailer that set the internet ablaze with confusion and horror. If you're watching this, you've probably seen it. They decided to go the full CG hybrid with this thing. They cast a boatload of big names, put them into motion capture suits, and CG'd their pretty faces into sleek CG cat bodies while giving them the old Ken doll treatment in the business section. The effect is jarring at points. I personally got used to the general effect as the movie went on, but I admit this probably wasn't the best choice. I mean, they spent over $100 million on this thing, and I just don't know how they figured that they were going to make that back with this project. I mean, maybe they could have saved some dough if they just put the actors into the makeup, into the costumes, and put them onto the admittedly impressive sets that they built to scale to make them seem cat-sized. Also, as a side note, this show is known for some of the most impressive dance that ever got put to stage. And they got world-class dancers to actually be in the film. But then they went and covered them up and covered up the performance with CGI. Now, even if what we are seeing is inch for inch their real movement, there's just something missing when you see a cartoon doing it and not the real person. For example, are you more impressed watching a clearly CGI rubbery Spider-Man flipping around doing acrobatics, or watching something like Jackie Chan do live-action real stunt martial arts in Drunken Master? You get it? A few issues with the look of cats. Now for me, they put so much work into the whole cat thing that they seem to skimp in other weird places. First of all, they had human hands, which is weird. Second, in addition to the cat bodies, anything like extra costumes, collars, seem to kind of float above the character like Snapchat filter. My wife kept whispering that she wanted to just reach up and pluck the little cat whiskers poking out of their weird little human faces. There's also a weird effect in which they seem to want to make a cat seem like a sexy cat. Like Taylor Swift is highly publicized to be in the film, although it's really just for one song. She does a scene with Idris Elba's cat, and they seem to be the only cats with kind of human contours. We see Swift's cat that has a bust and hips, and we see Idris Elba has muscles and pecs, and they do a little dance. And it also coincides with their cat fur matching close enough to their human skin tone, so it sometimes just looks like they're just naked, shiny CG people. The other cats all seem to be either skinny or fat cats, but all smooth over otherwise. There are also moments of true insanity that did pull me out of the already insane movie, even though I thought I was just settling in. There's one particular scene where a cat played by Rebel Wilson unzips her cat skin to reveal a second cat skin underneath, but with sequins vest. Okay. She then proceeds to unveil a small stage where she seems to have enslaved a bunch of mice to perform for her, but the mice have the faces of human children, and they didn't put in nearly the same work that they did for the cat faces. Taking it a step further, there's then a chorus line of cockroaches that emerges, also with human faces, that Rebel Wilson proceeds to bite the heads off of as they scream. The cast is a very talented group comprised of such names like the previously mentioned Idris Elba, Taylor Swift. There's also comedian and singers Rebel Wilson and James Corden. There are also the hugely talented dancer Francisco Hayward and legendary singer Jennifer Hudson, and many more. Now, the two in the cast that caught my attention the most, not necessarily in a good way, were Dame Judi Dench and Sir Ian McKellen. They were knighted, you know. These are two of the greatest living actors who are legends of their craft, and what are they doing here? Look, when you have two legendary people who are neither singers nor dancers trying to Rex Harrison sing through nonsense words while licking themselves, I feel something has gone awry. Let's get down to the nitty-gritty. What did I really think of this thing? Well, I kind of liked this movie. In fact, I enjoyed it way more than I thought I would going into it. Is it a good movie? Oh my God, no. But it is the best kind of bad movie that you could ask for. And yes, there is such a thing as a good bad or a bad good. Bohemian Rhapsody, that is the bad kind of good. Flash Gordon, that is the good kind of bad. I have a bit of a pet peeve when people go out actually attempting to make a bad movie or intentionally trying to make a cult classic. You can just smell the hipster mustache curling when you feel like they were aiming for bad because it's ironic. Nope. Cats was trying to make the best damn Cats movie they could, and it is a wonderful disaster. I don't mean to sound condescending. In truth, I think the concept of Cats the musical is perfectly right at home on stage, and trying to convert that concept into film would always be a tricky thing. Personally, I think if they were going to do this, I wish that they would have simply made the Spielberg-produced hand-drawn animation version when the idea was being tossed around back in the 90s. The version died in pre-production, but you can still find the concept art online pretty easily, which I recommend that you do. It could have been another Fantasia, but instead, we get this fantastic fever dream of cat puns with a huge budget, and the question of who was this made for right here. Now, I can tell you two true things. One, that I watched more than a few people walk out of the theater during the runtime. And two, I still enjoyed it. Maybe not for the reasons that the filmmakers intended, but I enjoyed it nonetheless. I would give Cats a score of 5 Rum-Tum Tugger, I hardly know her, out of 10. Yep, I'm going right down the middle here because it is one of the most misguided films that I've seen in quite some time, but I laughed through it and had a blast. Let's be honest. You already know if you have any interest at all in watching Cats. I can say that as someone who had zero interest outside of morbid curiosity, I didn't regret watching it. Do I recommend it? Yeah. I don't know if anyone needs to rush out to the theater to see this thing, but it feels like it would be perfect to have on a big screen playing in the background of a party. Anyone could sit down at any point. You wouldn't feel like you missed anything. Thank you again for visiting us here at the Fourth Wall, for listening to me talk for a far longer than I thought I could about Cats. You enjoyed this and you want to stay up to date with reviews in pop culture, please again give us a like and subscribe. Did you see Cats? Do you agree with my take on this thing? Or do you want to scrub this review right out of your memory? I say again, scrub it right out of your memory. Anyway, my name is Danny, this is The Fourth Wall, and let's see if I can just cat magic my way right out of this thing. McCavity.